This is me practicing the Medusa edged weapon system. This is how I do my solo training when it comes to practicing the Medusa edged weapon system. The Medusa edged weapon system has completely changed how I look at knife combatives and knife-based martial arts. It has changed the way I look at knife defense and pretty much everything I do when it comes to the blade. I believe it should be everyone's base for edged weapons combatives. It will enhance any blade system you practice.
Pry bar.
I am also going to show the tools I am training with and carrying on the day I filmed this. There are two things I want to put forth here before we go into this video. One, this anatomy rash guard that's on my dummy has the front anatomy on both the front and back. So when you see me attacking from one side, I'm not training to attack people from the back. I just bought it from Amazon, and so it has the same design on the front and the back. Cold Steel Voyager XL. The second thing that you should know is that it is important that you train to scale your use of force. The Sidekick by Ruben Camara of Camara Knives. The Medusa edged weapon system is very adaptable. The tactics of shock, latch, and stab can be made to be anything. The Viper by Ruben Camara of Camara Knives. You can shock, latch, and run. You can shock, latch, and trip. You can shock, latch, and shock again. You can shock. It doesn't matter. There is so much you can do with this system, and you need to be able to figure out other ways to use it than just stabbing somebody. And we will go over that in the training that I am going to offer on my Patreon. This will not just end in the use of lethal force every time. In fact, if you watch these videos carefully, you will see me using non-lethal weapons such as my pry bar and my flashlight. I use pens, I use other things, I use improvised weapons. I shock and escape, I shock, latch, and throw. I train to do all sorts of things other than just shock, latch, and stab. If shock works, you don't have to go to the other steps. That's the beauty of the Medusa system. But what it does teach is excellent preemptive striking skills, which is an absolute necessity when it comes to real-world self-defense. Even though I think this is very important to understand, and to teach otherwise is to teach people to become victims rather than survivors, there are some major caveats to go with the idea of preemptive striking. You have to do your homework and understand the legal consequences to excessive force and understand what would be viewed as reasonable force in the country and culture that you live in. If you do not do any research on self-defense law, you are doing yourself a disservice if you practice any martial arts or any combatives. This is just something that you should not ever do. You need to do your homework. You need to understand what you're up against if you have to go to court for the use of force. You need to be able to explain yourself like a professional, not like a thug. You need to act in accordance to the ideals of reasonable force if you're going to train in anything like the Medusa edged weapon system. To do otherwise will make you very familiar with the phrase, "Will the defendant please rise?" sometime in your future, especially if you have a gung-ho attitude. Gung-ho attitudes and combatives do not mix well. Focalite Ace Beam. There is a huge responsibility to training in any system like the Medusa edged weapon system. I love this knife. The Medusa edged weapon system is a systemized look at the reality of knife violence. It really puts into perspective the brutal reality of criminal knife violence. And it gives you an excellent base from which you can train your knife defense. If you understand the Medusa system, you understand what you're up against if you have to face real-world knife violence. Thank you. Have a great day.